From November 14th to 21st, we're inviting you to join us for a powerful trip to Ghana. This isn't just a vacation. This is a chance to walk through the same places where many of our people were captured, held, and shipped off into slavery. So don't wait. Secure your spot today. We're making history by walking through it. Will you be with us?
Now, imagine spending centuries colonizing, brutalizing, and benefiting from a system built on Black suffering, and then turning around and claiming to be the victim when justice finally comes knocking. Now, that's not irony, beloveds, but that's entitlement. Dumelang, Absheni Ralocha Sanbanani Mulueni. My name is Naledi Mfoloe, and it is my absolute pleasure to welcome you to the latest edition of the African Diaspora News channel, where we unravel the stories that shape our world and our communities. Now, this month, the Episcopal Church in the United States made headlines and made history by announcing that it will end its refugee resettlement partnership with the federal government. And why? Because it refuses to participate in what it sees as preferential treatment of white South African Afrikaners who are descendants of colonial settlers being fast-tracked into refugee status under Trump's administration. Now, family, let's call this what it is: a farce wrapped in white tears and covered in colonial nostalgia. Now, I am personally glad and relieved even that someone is standing up and finally saying no. Because what we're watching isn't a refugee crisis, but it is a political performance. The U.S. government, under pressure from the far-right talking points in the midst of white genocide in South Africa, is opening its doors to white South Africans who do not meet internationally recognized criteria for refugee status. No land has been seized, no genocide, no systemic persecution based on race. But what we do have is a democratic government working imperfectly but intentionally to repair the damage done by centuries of racial injustices, which is the very same system these Afrikaners have benefited from, without question, if you ask me. Let's watch.
The reality is we felt like we cannot be ourselves as the Episcopal Church and take part in this step of resettling white Afrikaners from South Africa. The moral decision making for us has so much to do with the way in which this all took place. The refugee resettlement program, which we've been a part of for more than 40 years, was basically shut down in January. So almost no refugees have been admitted to the United States since the end of January. People that have been waiting for years and are still waiting, who have been of service to this country, who are persecuted, are waiting to receive entrance. And this particular group has been fast-tracked over top of all of these others. So right there, that's problematic. And really, it's hard to imagine they fit the definition of refugee by most definitions. The president can certainly determine who he wants to admit to the country, but it just doesn't align with our values at this point. I don't know what the administration's motivations for it is. I can't speak to that. But what it appears to us is that some people are being privileged over others, and it appears that white people are being privileged over people of color for no real apparent reason that data at least shows. So we feel like it's a line we've been asked to cross. Our hand's been forced, and we feel like we're doing the honorable thing and just asking to be released from our obligations.
The church's presiding Bishop Sean Rowe made it plain. He's grieving for the actual refugees, which are those who worked alongside the U.S. forces in Iraq and Afghanistan, who are now left to fend for themselves, which are those who are fleeing war zones and those who are actually experiencing true religious and political persecution. He called this sudden and selective prioritization of white South Africans a betrayal of the entire refugee system, and he's absolutely right. And let me say this, as a Black South African, we see through it. Because where was this urgency when thousands of Somali, Congolese, or Ethiopian refugees needed shelter? Where was the speed when Black asylum seekers were drowning in the Mediterranean? Where was this open arms policy when Haitians camped at the Texas border? I mean, this isn't about humanitarianism, but it's about preserving white identity under the illusion of danger. And let's remember, right? The same Afrikaners now being resettled claimed for decades that apartheid was not racist. They weaponized Christianity to justify racial segregation while hoarding land and wealth and power that wasn't even theirs from the beginning. Now that the tables are ever so slightly turning, now they cry persecution. But please, I was born in the country that they're running from, and trust me, equality isn't persecution. It just feels that way for people who've never had to share power. And I wholeheartedly support the church's decision. This was a moral stance, and not against white people, but against white exceptionalism and against the idea that whiteness should always be first in line, even when the facts don't support the case. And to those in the US crying foul, ask yourselves why white South Africans are leapfrogging desperate people who have suffered in refugee camps for years. If you ask me, I say this is reverse apartheid in new form, preserving white bodies at the expense of global Black suffering. What are your thoughts? Please, let's continue the conversation in the comment section. I'd really like to hear what your thoughts are on this. And while you're at it, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. That's it from me. Till we meet